Just a quick reminder for all of those who care about equality, airplanes are now wheelchair accessible. Yeah, when is the last time you talked about that? I am not even going to get angry. I am just going to answer, and that's it. That doesn't make an airplane wheelchair accessible. In my case, I cannot leave my own wheelchair. I am paralyzed from the chest down. I need laterals on my wheelchair. When you put me on that wheelchair, I fall. And when you transfer me to the regular airplane, to the regular airplane seat, I fall because I don't have any balance. To make airplanes wheelchair accessible, it means to find a solution so that we can access into the airplane with our wheelchair and stay with our wheelchair during the flight and make it safe and accessible. We don't want you to transfer us because that's what makes it impossible for a lot of people to be able to travel. People like you who think that is making an airplane wheelchair accessible. That doesn't make anything accessible. You understand where I'm going? So don't put more. It is also very funny how you say that it is very easy to transfer us. When you're saying it, you have to transfer us, but it's wheelchair accessible. That doesn't make it wheelchair accessible, and it's not easy because you guys are so poorly trained to transfer us that every time I have to travel in an airplane, you guys hurt me because it's not someone that is specialized and trained into transfer people who are paralyzed completely, like me, people who are 6'1" and completely paralyzed, and you think you know how to transfer me? No, you don't. That doesn't make an airplane wheelchair accessible. We need to be able to go into the airplane with our wheelchair so we can endure the 11, 20, whatever hours we need to stay in that airplane. So please stop being ignorant. But why are you saying that? Like, I give arguments as to why making airplanes wheelchair accessible is possible and safe. Go to my petition. The FAA requires 16 Gs of force for seats to be legal on airplanes. And the safety mechanisms for wheelchair accessible cars, trains, subways, even roller coasters support more than 16 Gs of force. So where are your arguments? We are better fitted and safe in our wheelchair than in any airplane seat. I have no balance. When I am in an airplane seat, I am like a bag of potatoes on the floor. If someone has to take me out of my airplane seat in an emergency, it's a lot more difficult than if someone had to take me out of my own wheelchair. And I am just safer. I am fitted. This is made for my own 6'1" paralyzed body. The only reason why it hasn't been done is because of money. Once again, but you don't want to listen to me because you're ableist as. The safety mechanisms have been invented already. Go into my petition and read them. I made videos about it. If you don't want to see them because you don't want to, then keep being ableist. One thing I'm going to ask you to do is please stop teaching me about safety, because your first video is you going head first against a stop sign, hitting it. Why are you teaching me about safety? I make a video saying that airplanes are now wheelchair accessible and all the ableists are trying to get the spotlight. Google if airplanes are wheelchair accessible. And yes, I'm sure Google is going to say yes. Google is going to tell you that if you're in a wheelchair, you can travel. You can go with your wheelchair all the way to the door of the airplane. And when you're at the door of the airplane, they can transfer you physically to an airplane seat. But your wheelchair is going to go into the cargo with the suitcases. So if you're someone like me who has no balance, who is 6'1", who cannot move at all, who cannot sit in a regular airplane seat, and this is your option, because there's not a single airplane in the world where you can go with your wheelchair in it, then how is that how are airplanes wheelchair accessible? I don't want to be transferred. I can't. It makes it impossible for me. The fact that your mom is transferred from the door of the airplane to an airplane seat does not make airplanes wheelchair accessible. I am a spinal cord injury. Wheelchair accessible does not mean that we have a seat in the airplane. It means that we need to stay in our wheelchair. So the possibility of having to be transferred from the door to an airplane seat is not a possibility for us. That makes it impossible. The fact that your mom can travel means nothing to me. I don't know what disability your mom has. Maybe she's just in a wheelchair, but good for her that she can be transferred, but I can't. So instead of saying that it's unsafe, which you have no idea about that, because if you read my petition, you would know that there is ways to make it safe. The safety mechanisms to make airplanes wheelchair accessible have already been invented. I talk about them in my petition. You can go to allwheelsup.org, watch the videos, read everything. They need to support 16 Gs of force by the FAA, and the safety mechanisms have been invented. The wheelchair would never come off that plane if there were turbulences. Now, if there were turbulences, I am telling you that any disabled person would be a lot more safe in their own wheelchairs that have been made for their own size and weight. Mine has laterals because I cannot hold my balance, and it has a special cushion so I don't break my butt skin, and it has special footrests. If I am in an airplane seat, I am just wobbling. Just a seatbelt on my hips and everything else, I'm just falling. It's much more unsafe. Excuse me? I make a video about trying to make airplanes wheelchair accessible. First, you argue that airplanes already are wheelchair accessible just because your mom, who is in a wheelchair, can travel. Then I teach you why that doesn't make airplanes wheelchair accessible, because the fact that your mom can be transferred from the door of the airplane to the seat doesn't make an airplane wheelchair accessible, because you're basically comparing your mom to everyone who has a disability as if we are all just like your mom. I have a spinal cord injury. I have no balance. I cannot do what your mom does to travel. And then you say I'm not empathetic, and then you call me rude just because I say I'm not your mom. You are not empathetic. You need to be taught a lot of things. And I'm sorry about that. I am so sorry for everyone that you have, quote unquote, taken care of in the past, because I am sure that is not the right verb for whatever you have done to them. I made a video saying that airplanes need to be wheelchair accessible, because people who need their wheelchair 24/7 like me cannot be transferred from that door that you're talking about into a regular airplane seat. There's no airplane where you can go with your wheelchair into the airplane and stay in the wheelchair during the flight. And all you do is hate on that. Say that because your mom, who is in a wheelchair, can fly, they are wheelchair accessible. You're basically comparing your mom to everyone with a disability. We are all different. You need to be taken out of your job. I make a video saying that airplanes are not wheelchair accessible, and 50% of the comments are people saying yes, they are wheelchair accessible. Then they say my mom, who is in a wheelchair, has traveled in an airplane forever without problem. And then you ask them, was your mom inside the airplane during the flight in her wheelchair? And she says no. They are transferred from the door to a normal airplane seat. You have to think that there's two types of wheelchairs. Manual, for people who usually have balance and probably can transfer to a normal airplane seat, and power wheelchairs for people like me who have zero balance and can do that. Mi amigo, eso no significa que los aviones sean accesibles para la silla de ruedas. Si tú quieres que hacer que un avión sea accesible para silla de ruedas, para gente como yo, que estamos en silla de ruedas eléctrica, que no tenemos equilibrio, que no tenemos nada de equilibrio del pecho para abajo porque estamos paralizados. No podemos sentarnos en una silla normal del avión. En los aviones en los que tú hablas, no había una silla de ruedas dentro del avión durante el vuelo. Como mucho, había una silla de ruedas muy fina con la que transfirieron a la persona que está en silla de ruedas desde su silla en la puerta del avión hasta el asiento normal en el avión. Pero esto no es una solución para gente como yo. Yo necesito que sea seguro y posible estar dentro del avión con mi silla durante el vuelo. A ver, la verdad es que en un minuto poner todas las razones por las que hay que hacer que los aviones sean accesibles para sillas de ruedas no me da tiempo. Pero como veo que a ti lo que te importa es la seguridad en las turbulencias, pues te lo explico. La Administración Federal de Aviación, que son los que se encargan de legalizar los sillines en los aviones, requieren que esos sillines mantengan más de una fuerza de 16 Gs, si hay turbulencias o lo que sea. Los mecanismos de seguridad para las sillas de ruedas, tanto en coches como buses, como en trenes, como en ferries, como en todos esos sitios, ya soportan más de 16 Gs. Léelo en mi petición. Lo cual que si hubiera turbulencias y yo estuviera en mi silla no se movería del sitio, así como cualquier otra silla del avión. Ahora, si hubiera turbulencias, mi cuerpo estaría mucho más seguro en mi silla que en una silla del avión. Eso te lo aseguro. Everyone wants to talk about equality. No one is really talking about the fact that airplanes are not wheelchair accessible at all. Like me, I depend on my wheelchair to live and move around. But if I want to take an airplane, I have to be picked up from my wheelchair and be transported to an airplane set, while my wheelchair has to go on the bottom of the airplane. But in the meantime, if I have money to pay for a bed and a shower and a huge space on an airplane, I can still do that. Why can't I not pay for a small space for me to put my wheelchair and be seated on my wheelchair, and other people can pay for having beds and showers? Like everyone's talking about equality. Please sign the petition on my bio to make airplanes wheelchair accessible. Thank you.